Hello everybody. Not too long ago I told you about my idea to use a Raspberry Pi to remotely connect my camera and my telescope to my laptop. Well, I finally completed it. I have taken a Raspberry Pi and I've gone through 3 different software packages to make this work. One is called IndigoSky, the other is called Astroberry, and finally I utilized VirtualHere. So those 3 options, I'm going to show you what I did to complete my project and which ones I'm using. So we all know that ZWO has the ASI Air and ASI Air Pro. So they've done this work for you. You just buy one of those, which is about $150 to almost $200 some dollars. Buy one of those, plug it up to your setup. Your mount works with it. Your camera works with it, provided you have a DSLR and or a ZWO camera, and you're good. You're golden. But what happens when you have one of these? QHY. What happens if you have an ATIC? For what I'm hearing, because I don't have ZWO ASI Air, these cameras don't work with that ASI Air, and so therefore you're out of luck. You don't have that particular option to go with. So here's where the other options come into play. Alright, let's compare this to the ASI Air. The ASI Air is a Raspberry Pi. They've taken one of those, they put their own case on it, branded case, and they put what's called an indigo server on that as a software. And it has all of the drivers necessary to connect with the equipment and wirelessly transmit the information from that device to your laptop or your iPad or your phone, wherever that may be, whichever tool you'd like to use. Okay? So Raspberry Pi is pretty cheap, and you can buy one yourself, put a case on it, and do the same thing. There's 2 software packages that currently are Indy servers, which is IndigoSky and Astroberry. Both of them are very different to each other, but they have the basic software and drivers necessary to connect to your devices. Okay. Then if we also look at the ASI Air Pro, it's simply, again, it's a Raspberry Pi, in which they put what's called a hat on top of it that has a few more ports and capabilities attached to it. And those things are available as well. If you wanted to go that route, you can put a hat on top of your Raspberry Pi and have all of the extra functionality that comes with that. Or you could just buy a USB hub if you want, plug that in. You can have an extra own power supply, plug that in. You get all the same functionality, and the cost may be similar. I haven't really looked into those details. So talking about IndigoSky. IndigoSky is, and I'll show you here some pictures as well. It's a more advanced version of the Indigo server, where you need to have some Linux knowledge and skills, and you have to have some patience to be able to get it set up and working. Getting it installed is not a problem. I was able to do that without too much issue. The problems came when I started trying to connect to the devices. So the connections are there, but it doesn't transfer the information as effectively as I would expect. And it works. There's a lot of people that use it. I just was not able to do it in an efficient manner of time to be able to make it work. If I spent the time on it, I could get it to work. That's a lot though. And so to my audience, I'm not sure if that's something you want to do. That's your choice. If you have the skill, you have the patience and the time frame to do it, IndigoSky is perfect. So let's stop and let's take a look at IndigoSky, and then we can move on to Astroberry, and then finally we'll talk about VirtualHere. So okay, I've got IndigoSky plugged in, the SD card for the IndigoSky is plugged into the Raspberry Pi. I have it on. So let's talk about how we connect to it, because this is going to be similar for all 3 options that I'm going to discuss here today. So let's take a look here on the laptop, what I'm talking about. So I've got this up and running, and you can connect your Raspberry Pi to your home network. So if you're at home and you've got a Wi-Fi network at home, you can connect it directly to that network, and then all you have to do is you have to find the IP address or know the IP address for the Raspberry Pi, and then with IndigoSky you can connect to it. One of the ways to do that is to go into your router and look at the connected devices, and you'll see the Raspberry Pi and you'll have an IP address there. That's one way to do it. But if you're out on the road and you're remotely somewhere trying to take pictures, then you're going to also need to connect your laptop and your Raspberry Pi together through a network. So there's two ways to do that. So one, you can go, if you have a Windows computer, okay, you can go into Windows, and I've got a bunch of Wi-Fi networks here, and you can turn on a mobile hotspot. When you turn on the mobile hotspot, you give it credentials, you give it, whatever name you want, you give it a password, and you have to manually set that up on your Raspberry Pi. The other thing is to, as you can see here, is to set IndigoSky up as its own network. That's how it comes. So when it's installed and you set it up, it automatically creates its own network for you. It's called IndigoSky, and they tell you what the password is. So that's perfect for being out in the field, because your laptop is not going to be connected to any other network, so it's okay for your laptop to just connect directly to your Raspberry Pi. So that's what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to click on IndigoSky, click connect. And so while it's doing that, then I'm going to go over here to the Indigo control panel. So this is also software that comes with the package, and you install that onto your computer. Okay, so Indigo control panel has started up. So let's do a couple of things here. First, let's find out what the IP address is for the Raspberry Pi, and I think you can do that here. Click on Properties for IndigoSky. Alright, if you scroll down, you can see the IP address here, 192.168.235.161. So we're going to use that here in the IndigoSky. And I wish I could just copy it, but that one thing, but I can't. So 192.168.235.161. So File, Manage Services. We're gonna 192.168. Alright, so we'll add that one. Okay. And I'm gonna hit close. Alright, so what you can see here is it's found the server already. So that's working. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I've got a QHY camera. So I'm going to now connect power to it so that it cools itself down while we're doing this. And then I'm going to connect this USB cable, it's USB 3. Okay. And I'm going to hold off before connecting it to the Pi. So now what we're looking at here, let's take a look at all of the available drivers that you can use with this software. So I've got a QHY camera here, so I'm going to look for QHY, and I'm going to click on that driver to install it. If I had an SBIG camera, if I had any of these things here, so you've got focusers you can put on here, you've got Nexstar mounts you can put on here, drivers for. You got DSLR cameras, which is not that particular one that I'm showing you there, but they're all here, right? So they're all, you can just walk through it and pick and choose which drivers you need for the applications or devices that you have that are USB connected to your Pi, okay? Altair Astro, Apogee camera, they're all here, okay? And if you scroll down even further, now it's giving you additional information about what version of the server you have. Here's where you can configure your access point. So it's called IndigoSky. You could change the password there. You could also change it to use your SSID from your home. connected here. If you had your laptop that was set up as a hotspot, you can put that information in here to get it going. So there is some ease of use there, but it can get to be confusing and difficult for the system as you're going through. You could also load drivers. So for instance, there's an update to the driver set that needs to be, and you have it on your laptop. You can find it, you can load it, you can set it, you can capture logs. There's a lot of things you can do here. You can reboot the Pi, you could restart the server, you can set your host time if you feel it's necessary to do. You can shut down, and you can unload drivers. Okay, so I'm going to click on main, and here again, these are all the available drivers. So it shows you all the stuff we just looked at. All right, here are your available drivers, available versions, access points, things like that. All right, so that's just a little bit of a breakdown of how this is working. Right, so now let's connect the camera. And to do that, I've got a USB in somewhere. Here it is. I'll take that and connect it by USB 3 into the Pi. And voila! All of a sudden now you see that it's got your camera connected. It knows that it's connected. QHY163 camera. So that's this piece. It also threw in here a guider, if you were to use it as a guide camera, which is possible. Anybody can do that. And the wheel, the filter wheel for it. Okay, so they're all here, and it's the same process, right? So you've got the QHY camera, and if you look on the right hand side, you've got a bunch of different options that you can deal with. So configuration control, which when you make changes here, you can save it as a configuration, and then you can load it later if you need to. So if there's something that's different than what would normally come up here, or maybe you want to have different profiles associated with this camera, you can save all those and then load them later as needed. Here's the connection status. So this is telling you that it's disconnected, and so you want to connect. All right. So now that's connecting to the camera. All right. And as you saw here on the left hand side, things changed the moment you connected to it. All right, so going back to the right, those are all my options. Now I can change profiles, and when I change profiles, options within these things change. So now let's look at advanced. So in advanced, you have USB traffic control, okay, and you also have the pixel format. So if you look at your camera's information from QHY in this example, you're going to go with RAW 16 because that's what this camera is, and so you want to make sure that's set. So it's already set, don't have to make changes there. Then let's look at camera. So again, all of these options that are listed here are also listed here. Now, if you were using this directly here on the Pi to capture photos, you can set this up and you can let it go, or you can, when you're looking at it, you can say, oops, I need to abort that exposure, and right here you can do so. You can abort that exposure. Here's the capture mode. So again, we're RAW 16 and we're at the highest resolution possible for that. I can come down on the resolution if I wanted to, which if I did that, guess what that is? That's binning. That's a 2x2 bin here. So that's what that RAW 16 is at the bottom. You can enable preview, so if you want to see the photo that's been taken, you can enable that or disable it. You can set the gain, and so to do that, you would change this 100 number to whatever gain you want it to be. Okay. You have a gamma adjustment that you can make. Again, you're going to change it here. These numbers here are time or system controlled, let's put it that way. So what do you want to do with the image once you collect it? You want to upload it to your client, which your client in this case is going to be the laptop. And I've got APT, so that's what I would like it to upload to. Or I can save it locally. Okay. And where I'm saying this is difficult is it's going to save it locally to the operating system SD card. And so I'm redoing the audio here. So I don't know what happened to it. So trying to make this work properly. So I said so a lot. Here, I'm going through all of the settings that are available in IndigoSky. Talking about saving files, your photos locally or to the client or both. You've got a lot of little options in terms of what the resolution needs to be. We're also seeing here where you can save the files. If you, like I said before, have some Linux skills, you would know exactly how to put in that directory information there for an external SD card and be able to save your pictures there. That is a bit challenging to do with this software. There's also offset that you can set your targets here. And listen, once you set it, you go ahead and you can execute when you go to the later on. When you execute, it'll use these settings. Here's where you control the temperature of your cooled camera. You turn that on and it begins to do the work. As you can see here, it automatically set the power to 100% and it's tracking the temperature of the camera. All right, so let's move on to the image items here. So we've got binning. So this camera is capable of 2x2 binning, and here's where you would change those settings. Here again is your frame size settings. You can set whether or not you're taking lights, flats, darks, bias files. It's got a viewer, so as you're taking those photos, you can see what they look like. Moving on from there, there's the file naming convention that you can put together here, as well as the image format between FITS, XI, SF, raw data, or JPEG format. Okay, so once you've got all your profiles set, you can save them here and done. Or not profiles set, but just got all your settings set, then you can save them here. What I'm going to do now is connect to APT, and we're going to talk about what's good and what's not so good. All right. First of all, I have to connect to the Indy server, which is located on the Pi. So I'm wirelessly connected. I know I've gone through and looked at all the settings. So now I've got to take that IP address that I have, and I've got to put that into the Indy location here under tools. All right, so once I have all the information there, including not changing the port, you can see at the bottom here that it's saying that it's connected and ready to use. So now you're going to click on camera. It's going to give you some information there. And then you're going to choose Indy or Indigo camera. Hit OK, and there it is. Now it's showing you the camera that is connected to your Pi, which is the QHY. I'm going to click on that. For me, it's going to have a couple of abort errors. So not really liking that, or why that is struggling to connect initially. So I'm gonna try it again. All right, so a second try, fail. So just to be clear, this doesn't work as it should. It should be a lot easier to connect. And what I've seen, only because it was able to connect fully before, is that I'm not even able to get the picture. So I'm telling APT to acquire an image. It says that it's doing something on the IndigoSky side of things. You can see it's counting time. It's capturing an image. It actually shows the image on IndigoSky, but it will not transfer any of that information over to APT. It's so that combination just isn't working very well. If you've got a different software package other than APT that you use, maybe that works great with that software package. Maybe it's something else that's keeping me from getting it to work. I just find it to be difficult, and because it's difficult, it's not something that I would recommend. It's about ease of use for a lot of users in this hobby, and the more difficult something is, the less likely it's going to be used. So that's the main message from this video. I still think it's a It's very good. It shows you a lot of information related to in your camera through IndigoSky. It shows you a lot of information related to all of the USB items that you've got connected, from filter wheels to um, to the mounts to you name it, focusers. It's got all that information there, and you can make adjustments. You can change things. It's got that flexibility, that functionality that's great. But when it comes down to putting the images where it needs to be, it it's not able to do that. So that's my message here for you guys. And by the way, this particular tool can be used with the next one called Astroberry um, that I'm going to review here next. Thanks. So option 2 for software is Astroberry. Again, very straightforward process for installing it onto your Raspberry Pi. What's nice about Astroberry is that Astroberry is a little more intuitive, and it comes with a large suite of Linux-based astrophotography tools, so that you don't actually have to connect to your own equipment on your laptop and your own software on your laptop to be able to utilize the server. You could actually do everything you need right here on the Pi. Okay, that's very much similar to what the ASIair does. Everything's on the ASIair. It's got its own suite of software packages that work with everything that you need that's connected to your telescope and your entire rig. And so it does all the work right there, and then sends you a picture to your laptop or your phone, or it saves it on the drive, right? And also you have all of that capability with Astroberry. You put a micro USB card into your USB port, and you use all that software, and your pictures get stored right there, and you move forward. It's pretty quick in terms of speed because you're doing everything here. But it also has the capability of transferring that information directly to your laptop. And so you could actually not use, because it's a learning experience, to learn new software after you've been using one group of software for a long period of time can be challenging. So you have the ability with Astroberry to take that information, transfer it to your laptop where all of your software currently resides that you know well, and utilize it the same way you always have, as if the laptop was directly connected to your rig. Okay, so let's take a look at Astroberry and its functionality and the differences between IndigoSky and Astroberry, and from there you can make your own informed decision about how you would like to proceed between those two. And then we'll look at VirtualHere as the third option. Alright, so I've got the Raspberry Pi connected to Astroberry, meaning I've taken the Astroberry SD card and placed it into the Raspberry Pi, started it up. I have connected to it by Wi-Fi. So you'll see here, Astroberry, internet connected, secured. So the way to get into Astroberry, and I'm going to actually start this from scratch for you, is you type in astroberry.local. Once you're connected, it's going to take you to where you start the server connection, and you click start. It's going to go through some setup routine. One of the things while I was doing that is make sure your Raspberry Pi is powered properly. If it's underpowered, Astroberry will not work properly with your Raspberry Pi, and it will actually disconnect, reconnect, disconnect, reconnect. It cause more problems than not. So make sure you have a good 5-volt, 3-amp driver for power source for your Raspberry Pi. Okay, so we'll click connect. Astroberry is the password, so first time you log in, that's what you type in. There we go. Alright, so now you're in, and one of the nice things about it is this is basically a Linux shell. You're looking at the Raspberry Pi directly. You could plug in an HDMI cable to your Pi, and you can actually see this very same screen. Okay, so you're looking directly at what the Raspberry Pi is showing, and within the Raspberry Pi, already installed are a lot of different applications that work with astrophotography, like fire capture, CCD, seal, ASTAP, fire capture, which is popular I think with a lot of you, PhD2 for guiding, things like that. You got a sky chart, you got K-stars, you got a lot of different tools here. So when you compare this to, let's say, the ASI Air or the ASIair Pro, you're going to be learning new software either way with the Astroberry or the ASI. Where they separate themselves is with the ASI Air, you're stuck with what they give you. With the Astroberry option, you can actually utilize the tools you already have. So I'm going to show you here back on my computer APT. And so in order to use APT with this, you're going to first want to come over here to the right and click on that little tiny arrow, and there's a bunch of little setup things you've got to go through. All right, and so you want to click on the wheel, which is for settings, and make sure it says shared mode. All right, and then you want to click on the telescope right below it. Here's where you get it ready for your application. Okay, so you want to make sure you have auto start checked, auto connect checked, because whatever you're connecting, you want to make sure it automatically connects to those items. Next thing you want to do is type in, I have typed in already, my setup. So this is a profile that I've saved called my setup. It has all of my drivers on it, and which is here. This is where you get the Indy drivers for your particular application. So there's adaptive optics, there's a imaging agent, there's auxiliary items that you've got, like an autofocuser, Arduino focuser if you wanted to, which would be pretty cool. Arduino servers or servos, Astroberry relays. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things here, right? So if you scroll down some more, you've got CCDs, which are your cameras, and look at the list of cameras that you have available. So I've checked the Canon because I've got one of those. I actually have two. I've also checked QHY, that's what's currently connected, and I've checked the ZWO, which I will have connected once that once I decide to use that. You can connect your dome to this thing. So if you wanted to, if you have a motorized dome and you're connected that to the location of your telescopes, and everything moves all together, this could be can handle it, just as well as filter wheels, focusers here. And this popular one is Moonlight, that's on here. You got the Moonlight focuser and the Moonlight DRO. You got spectrographs here. You got telescopes, which are your mounts. Okay, so those are all listed here. All right, different telescopes. You got weather stations that you can connect to this as well. So it's got a lot of things you can connect, right? But you want to check the ones that are for you. And once they're checked, you're gonna click start. So right now mine's already running, but once you've got all those checked and all these things checked, you want to come up here and save your profile, click save, and then you want to start it. Okay, once it says servers online, all of these options are working for it. Okay, so now that's working, then I'm going to minimize this for now. Then I'm going to open up astrophotography tool. So the thing about this is I've already set it up, so I'm going to walk through it again for you just so you can see it. Because when you start this up, once you've done it a few times, at the bottom what you see is it says it's connecting to the Indigo server. The IP address I already know, which is 10.42.0.1, and then it does all its connections and it says it's ready for use. So actually, before I get too far down the road, let me show you one more thing here in the Indy. So you want to click on the VNC server option up here, and it's going to tell you the IP address, which is information you need for whichever tool you're using that's connecting to the Indy server, which in this case is astrophotography tool. All right, so let me hide all that, hide that. We know my IP address. We go here, we go back to tools as we did before. We click on Indigo. We put in 10.42.0.1. The server port's the same, 7624. We're going to click on connect, and it goes through and does its connection. Great. Now what you've got is you're all connected, and then you want to connect your camera. Then you click connect. It's going to bring up this window. You hit OK. There is the QHY CCD. I hit OK, and it didn't like that, but I'm going to try it again. One more time, hopefully we get you.
Camera connected.
All right, so now it's connected. And so I can start cooling. So boom, there we go. I started the cooling process on that camera. I'm connected to it. And you can see it starting to cool pretty quickly. I can try changing settings. Here's my here's my offset setting that I can change. Let's make that an 8 for this camera. All right. So yeah, so then the question is, does live view work? So if I click on live view, and there it goes. Okay, and it's using the number that I've got here. So let me undo that real quick because that's too long. Let's just make it 1 second. 1 second live view check here. Okay, so turn live view back on. It's got to finish the previous tasks, right? And great, it locked up on me. So now, restarting APT, loading up, I'm going to connect the camera. This time it does it very quickly, I think. Yeah. That's
camera connected.
So yeah, now I'm connected. I'm going to go ahead and start cooling. And with cooling, you see that that's happening. Hopefully this thing doesn't lock up again on me. Could be a symptom of working with Astroberry or the Wi-Fi connection. Not sure which, but typically it works without issue. So just going to turn on live view here. See the first picture come through. And which is important, right? So I've not gotten that result yet where I can have a picture showing up here on live view. And so it does take a little bit of time to download from the Pi over the Wi-Fi network. But once it does, when you know it's working, it's the same amount of time each time over and over again. And there we go. So we got the first one. And that's because I took the cap off, and that's why it's so bright. So cap's back on, and let's just see the next few photos that come through. Sort of adjusting the gain here, or the auto stretch. There we go. All right, so this is Astroberry. This is something that I'm finding success with. I'm able to specifically do what I'm intending to do wirelessly from the rig itself over to my laptop, and it works just as if they were connected together. Again, this works a lot better in terms of live view functionality with the DSLR camera, the Canon specifically, the T3i that I have. So that's where I think I'm going to use it the most, simply because it has live view, and to me that is awesome to have live view available. All right, so there you have it. That's Astroberry. Again, it's a choice that you can make. It's a Raspberry Pi. It's the software. It's free. You just have to make sure you have all the latest and current drivers for it, which can be an issue from time to time. I've seen or heard of others who have had those struggles. But other than that, Astroberry works great. You can do it with the suite of tools it has, or you could use the tools you already have on your laptop. That functionality, that flexibility makes it a good choice. All right.
Cooling finished.
So now let's go ahead and talk about the next option, VirtualHere. Okay, so we've looked at the two different software packages. We've compared them to the ZWO ASIair. And there's one more. There's one more that's a little more costly, so it's going to add some costs to your total package here. But I think it's worth it in the right application. So, and that again is for something for you to decide. But it's called VirtualHere, and just like the name says, it's you're virtually there with your devices. It is a USB server, is what that is. And so you apply that USB server to your Pi, and all it does is says, okay, here's what's connected to these Raspberry Pi on each of these USB ports. And I'm just going to I'm actually just going to tell your laptop that these USB ports are actually directly connected to your laptop. And that's all it does. So whatever's connected to here, your laptop looks at it and says, oh, that's connected directly to me. And your laptop says, great, that's directly connected to me. I am going to use it as if it was directly connected to me. So that functionality that you get from a USB server is actually very good and has a lot of different applications, because everything that's USB connected on your telescope can now directly connect here and directly work on your laptop. You don't have to add software to your Pi, which speeds things up for your Pi. It doesn't take a lot of resources of your Pi. Your Pi is basically just a transfer portal of information and knowledge from your telescope to your laptop. And your laptop says, hey, everything's great. I've seen these things before. I've got all the drivers for them. I know how to use it. Just a little bit slow because you've got to transfer the data from over Wi-Fi from one location to another. But all of them are slow, from the ASIair to the ASIair Pro to anything you're using wirelessly. It's going to be a slow connection or a slower connection. Okay, so the only way to speed things up on any of these is to put that data directly onto the Pi, which all of them can do, including the IndigoSky version, which, again, like I said, I didn't spend too much time with it, but you can do it. You can put the data directly onto the Pi, and then from there, transfer it over to your laptop. Okay, which is pretty straightforward. You would just take one of these, the card, pull it directly out of your Pi, put it into your laptop, transfer the information, done. Okay, so that being said, let's take a look at VirtualHere. Okay, so we've done the first two, which, both of them have their uses and they have their locations or people that they're best suited for, or situations that they're best suited for. That's going to be an evaluation up to you, right? So, and that also includes mini PCs as well as the ASIair and ASIair Pro. So those are all options. There are a lot of different categories and factors that go into what you choose to use. I'm not trying to push you one way or another, just telling you that there's different options for you to review, and you can make your choice and decision from there. So the last one that I want to go over, which is the one I like the most, but it adds some cost, about $45 to your total expense, is VirtualHere. And VirtualHere, like I said before, is basically a USB server. It's just taking whatever's connected to the USB port on the Raspberry Pi and telling your computer, hey, that's actually directly connected to you, and just use it as you normally would. All right, so let's go ahead and get connected to VirtualHere. So let's look at a couple of different things. First, we're going to connect to the Raspberry Pi, and so I've set up this Wi-Fi as the telescope. So and it's already connected. Good. All right. So now that it's connected, VirtualHere comes with an app. On this app, you will put in your license key once you purchase it, and it already found the Raspberry Pi hub, and it's got the mass storage device that's already connected there. So if I wanted to use this device, I'd right mouse click and then click on use, and it would pass that on as something I can get to. So let's just do that. Use this device in use by me, and if I go here to my Windows Explorer, it shows on the side subs E, which is that drive, and it's got all my session files folder on it. So I can see it as if it was directly connected to this laptop. Okay, so I don't want to use that right now, so we'll stop. And then I'm going to connect the camera to the Pi. And so now there it is, West Bridge. So this is within this particular camera, the QHY camera. There is a USB bridge inside of it. It's called West Bridge. So it's connecting to that. And then it's going to say, oh, there's something else here beyond this bridge. So then it's going to connect to the camera, which is what you see happening here. In both instances, you have to right mouse click on it to tell the system to use it. All right, so now that it's using it, I don't need to do anything else. Done. I go here over to astrophotography tool. Okay, I don't care about the Indy server anymore, so I want to go to connect. All right, I'm going to change this to or ASCOM camera. Yeah, CCD ASCOM camera. I'm going to hit OK. Okay, and up comes ASCOM. So if you don't already have ASCOM installed, which you probably should already have that installed anyway for your so in this case it's QHY CCD, so camera capture. That's what I'm choosing. Click on these properties. All right, so it's telling me it's QHY 163, which is correct. And here are my presets for it. All look good. Some of those are from past use, and I click OK. And then APT says, "Hey, dude,
Camera connected.
Camera connected." All right, and that's it. Everything happens just like it normally would if it was directly connected to your laptop. I can add other devices directly to this Raspberry Pi and do the exact same thing. The reason why you have to make the purchase is because if you have more than one thing connected to it, that's where that comes from. You can only do one if you don't pay for it. All right, so yeah, so do multiples, and that $45 can handle just about everything you've got that's USB connectable to the Raspberry Pi, even through a hub that you might want to connect to the Raspberry Pi, and you have access to all of your capabilities as you normally would. So that's VirtualHere. This is the one that I use, or the setup that I use most while I'm sitting in my car and remotely getting photos done. Like I said, I use the Astroberry version with my DSLR camera because that seems to work a lot better, especially with live view. I love that function that it has, and so that's where I use that. I've got two Raspberry Pis that one has Astroberry on it and the other one has VirtualHere, so I can just swap them out. I just because I do. All right, so doesn't mean that this is what you're going to do or how you're going to set up your telescope and connect it to wirelessly to your laptop or your phone. All of this can be done with the phone as well. So that's it. That's what I wanted to show you guys. Hopefully this is good information for you to use in making a decision on how you're going to proceed in the future. Like I said, I like all of them. It's just one of them, just that IndigoSky just takes a lot of effort, and I don't think a lot of people are going to spend too much effort trying to make it work. So to me, they've got some UI work to do to make it easier to access the capabilities in that software package. So again, there you go. Indigo servers, very similar to the ASIair and ASIair Pro, which are using the same drivers. You can do this yourself. Good luck and clear sky. So how cool is this to be able to be in a relatively warm space capturing data from your telescope, which is outside the four walls. It's in the elements, it's doing its job, and I'm able to be here warm, cozy, comfortable. As a matter of fact, while the laptop's out here, I'm inside watching the movie with the kids and the family. So I think this is pretty cool. I like it. So I don't know if you guys feel the same, to be able to disconnect but still be connected and enjoy time with the family, as well as your hobby is doing its thing, and when it's done, you concentrate on that and you post-process and things like that. I think this is actually a wonderful option. So the market has a lot of different things out there for you. So like I said, you've got the ASIair and the ASIair Pro, which are basically Raspberry Pis, which is all I'm running right now, and that's doing the task of keeping this test plan going with APT. But APT doesn't know the difference. It just knows I got a QHY camera. I'm telling it to go
take some photos with 180-second exposure time frame, and to stay cool, stay down at -10. That's it. That's all it knows. It's doing what it's been asked to do, and so I'm pretty excited about it. So hopefully you find a way to make this a part of your setup. I think is valuable, especially for those of you who don't like the cold weather as much as I do, because I hate it. I also don't like bugs. So again, it's a cheap, inexpensive way for me to disconnect but still be connected. So, all right.
So I had a lot of fun doing this for my own use. I have settled on using two systems here. One is Astroberry, and I think I'm simply using that with my DSLR camera. And for everything else, I'm using VirtualHere because I don't have to worry about the driver problems, which are somewhat prevalent with the Indigo server system. But not to say that even with the DSLR camera I won't have those issues, but so far I've been very successful using it with the DSLR camera. Again, that's just for me. So if you haven't yet explored my blog, I'll put a link in the description below. I have a lot more details related to this entire process that can help you decide which is the right way to go. Because for you, it could simply be, I'm just going to buy an ASIair or an ASIair Pro, and done. All I have is ZWO. All my other equipment is pretty straightforward. It works. It's simple for me. I don't have to know any programming. Go. Excellent option there. But then there's some of you that may be a little more cost conscious and have a little more skill in terms of being able to work with the Raspberry Pi. Don't need a whole lot of programming knowledge. If you know how to install Windows on a mini PC, which takes hours in a lot of cases because of all the things you have to install on it, then you can do one of these. It is very straightforward and pretty easy to do. So if that's for you, then on my blog you'll see the cost differences. You'll see other factors that were also talked about here in this video that are important to make those decisions as to what you want to use going forward. Okay, for me, I like the Raspberry Pi option. One, because that's what the ASIair is using, and two, I can get them pretty cheaply, and three, if something happens, I got a few of these because I just have a few of these and I can swap them out very easily, and I can keep right on moving. I can even take the same Pi, swap out micro SD cards. One has Astroberry, one has IndigoSky, one has VirtualHere. Doesn't matter. Put them onto the same Raspberry Pi, and I got different functionality, and I'm able to do multiple different things just like that without any major work, without even having to buy another ASIair, for example, or even a mini PC. I'm good to go. But again, everybody's situation is different. Just giving you some options here. So yeah, check out my blog, and there's a lot more information there. If you have some comments, by all means leave them here or leave it on my blog. That I will respond to all of them, because I'm not that big at this moment to where people are flooding my comments with information, so I can respond to everything at this point. So, which I think is a good thing. And if there's some help you need, by all means post it in the comments. All right, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel. I've got plenty more coming. Where that came from, some of that could actually help save you money in the future. So stick with me. You and I can be partners here. All right, and finally, just remember, the sky is only the limit when your mind is unwilling to fly. So go beyond. Thanks for watching.